Hey guys, welcome to Killed in Action. This is a competitive Hell Let Loose podcast slash video series. We're going to try and do weekly uploads as well as have new guests and a new topic every single week. Suggestions are welcome.
This podcast was the first episode recorded in which we bring on Wix and Cidi to talk about streaming and also basic level comp. Any feedback is greatly appreciated. If you have a topic that you're interested in, please let us know in the comments and be sure to like, follow, and subscribe if you enjoy our content. Get into like the competitive scene right now, right? So we have Core 2.0 now, right? Like, and I don't know anything about like what the makeup of that is. Is it a lot of DC WTH guys? Like, what is, or is it that? So for those of you who don't know, so there is a server where they have what they call the transfer market, which is a really fascinating server, right? You're starting to see the recycle. Is that the same as Core 2.0, or is that something different? Someone was explaining it in that server, and I didn't necessarily pick up on that because a lot of guys are going to that. You know what I'm talking about?
I think it's just their clan tag. I don't know if they actually came up with an actual name yet, but it's comprised of like the old core people that are still playing. So like the ones that like either left to play for like other teams after core split up. A lot of inf guys that are still around. There's people from like Serb, a bunch of the DC
Cerberus
guys, minus like a couple people. So yeah.
There was a few people that went infamous, like broke up, joined DC, that went like core to infamous to DC, and I think like the leader of the group was Havald, who often commanded for core, commanded for infamous, and has commanded now for DC, and so, like this new team is kind of like DC 2.0 as well as core 2.0.
Yeah.
Because it's taking like the core of what was DC, trying to like supposedly like trying to get out some of the like toxicity that was associated with DC, and kind of bring in people from core that might have been turned off by, them continuing to be as DC was. So it's kind of like a rebrand. You could say it's like a reputation laundering or something, because they're like characterizing it as core 2.0. And I don't know everybody that's on it, but it's probably honestly more realistically DC 2.0 than anything, but with an influx of people from core supposedly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like taking two teams that were both really good and a lot of players from them, and making a new team and trying not to be as toxic.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting too because you say DC 2.0. So I know one of the big storylines. So DC in seasonals, they get in the top 8, right? So among other teams too, like you have Greyhounds, obviously, which they're up until the point that they lost against ESPT. They were unstoppable, right? Like no one could touch them. Even 5-0ing Refuse, which is, to me, that's, I could be wrong, but that seems mind-boggling to me. But Refuse was in there, Chimera was in there. DC really struggled in the group stage. They seemed out of place when they got 5-0'd by ESPT. Like it just seemed like it's like why. Like they seemed so out of their game. They came back in that tournament, man. Like they came back and like were performing really well. And they went up against ICF on this Remagen match, dude. Just got the horrible luck of the draw in terms of point. Like it was just way in ICF's favor. And but then again, like they gambled, right? Like picking Remagen is a freaking gamble for both sides, and it just didn't pan out for them. So they're not out of it yet. It doesn't seem like DC performed really well. I'll be curious to see. I mean, and some teams came out of that tournament better than others. Like, Chimera kind of dropped off way early in the tournament. They seem like one of the teams that just underperformed a bit. I'll be curious to see. They're not. I don't think they're signed up for APL. They were last time.
No.
I'll be.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're gonna do APL or not.
I don't
Yeah.
even. I don't even know if they play hella loose anymore. Bro.
You don't think so?
I don't know. I mean, probably.
Butterdog. I'll have to reach out to
Um,
Butterdog. Let's see.
After they got knocked out of a seasonal, there was like a lot of rumors, or kind of like I heard that a lot of like their main players were leaving. But that's a big community, so they
I
might
know.
be able to absorb some losses. Or I mean, anytime anybody loses, like you say that people say that a bunch of people are leaving, and it turns out that they didn't. Or
Right.
people are
Yeah.
retiring and then they don't retire. I mean, like, what was interesting about the last seasonal and the HCA preceding it was, we saw some teams like you mentioned DC, but another one you could say similar things about was WTH, who lost to
Yeah.
Chimera in HCA,
Yeah.
I think it was, and they kind of recovered and obviously went on the run to win seasonal. And ESPT even, I think, early on didn't look like they were the same team.
Not in HCA.
Yeah.
They
Not in HCA.
they got knocked out after 2 games because they lost 2 straight. One of them was against FOC, I believe. So they got knocked out against FOC, and I can't remember who they played in the second one, but they got eliminated early. And so
Yeah, it was like that HCA was like a wake-up call for some of those teams that I think like some people wanted to walk. I know for a fact like there were people on both of those teams that wanted to walk away, that were done basically with Hell Let Loose supposedly before HCA. Then when their teams kind of stumbled a little bit, a lot of the big players from WTH and ESPT kind of rejoined the fold, and obviously they both went on great runs. That kind of makes that like a really interesting narrative for the seasonal final, that they were both teams that struggled in HCA and then kind of rallied for seasonal. But there was a lot of, because this was all around the time of the British update, right? Getting back to that too, right? There was a lot of pessimism about the game and stuff, but it's good to see a lot of good players come back in and continue to compete, because it makes the game better.
for sure. So, and obviously, like you mentioned, like, and sometimes that is true, where it's like, there's a lot of rumors that go around, guys leaving teams breaking up, oh, they're done, and it's not that case, right? Like, but what I do see happening that seems totally legit is like, Syndicate is adding. Cidi, you could speak to it. Syndicate's adding a crap ton of guys. You mentioned it, Convenant, Braz, Crims, all those guys, Hagrid, all these guys like from TL going over to that's no joke. Like, that's legit. That's happened. That's done. Like, I think it's 12 guys. 12 guys have left from TL to go to Syndicate. Like,
Yeah.
How many people are on your current roster? Do you have any sort of estimate?
Syndicate has like a really big roster, so they're like a international team. So we have, I think there's like the VW50 guys. They were former like Chinese clan. They used to be on Chinese clans until they're like, fuck it, we don't want to play with these Chinese people no more. So, but they, from what Myth and like Mick have told me, when Syndicate played against basically all of China last seasonal, they came in clutch because the time worked well for them, and they're basically like a full squad. Like in China,
the Chinese squad, dude, like just Chinese
like
hit squad.
Yeah, in I guess like Chinese teams, from what I've heard, is that clans are like formed by like squads, and like the guys follow their squad leader. So if there's gonna be like a transfer, so like let's say the 4 of us, and then Sheepdog is like he's our boy, he's like he's our SL, and we only like to play with him. So Sheepdog's like, I'm not really feeling this clan, like, and we're like, all right, well, we're not gonna stay here if you're not gonna be here, so we'll go wherever you go. So that's how the VW50 guys.
That's kind of dope, though. That's a great way of doing it, though. Like, I kind of see, I see the benefits of that for sure. I like the loyalty of it too.
As a caster, you'll see that you'll see it from like people joining FLC, like ICF players, you'll see familiar names like, oh, I've seen this Coco before. He used to play for Sesh. You know what I'm saying? It's cause like the groups of people, like the squads, that's how they like phrase it. They like follow their squad leader.
Yeah. Well, and
So,
if you look at like ESPT, right? Which this is what's really interesting for APL because ESPT, they'll bring in 75th guys. So you have like Chris JT, you have US Ranger, you have Scripture. You'll have guys like that. And 75th and ESPT are registered as two separate teams for APL. So I would assume that crew right there, that 75th crew that plays part of ESPT, will not be playing for ESPT. But 75th for FNFs, and for those of you who watch, surely I would think you would know. But in case you don't know, FNF is Friday Night Fights. So there's right now it's the Senate that runs FNFs, and they put on Friday nights. They'll put on semi-sweat, semi-casual one match basically, where a bunch of comp teams can get together, play against each other. It's a good time, fun time. But 75th will bring 50 guys consistently on a weekly basis. So they have a team. They have a lot of guys, a lot of good guys too, I would say. So it'll be interesting to see like how they do with their sweats on 75th. And then obviously like ESPT, I could be wrong. I don't see a lot of guys leaving from ESPT. It sure doesn't seem like they have a whole lot of turnover. I think they're a pretty established team at this point. So, some of the other teams that are really interesting, because I'd love to get your thoughts on like what, we have some of the teams for seasonals coming up. There's some head scratchers. It's really interesting. Obviously teams like Ronin will be in. Ronin, they didn't do bad in seasonals for for their kind of their reputation going in. I mean, like they're kind of known more on the 18s front. I've played with them a bunch. They're a little wild. Like their tanking is a little not conventional. You get a team like ESPT, and Wix would probably speak to this more. When I watch ESPT tank, it is very, very conservative, right? They play very far back. They don't push their tanks up all that much unless it gets like really hairy. Ronin's the opposite. They will push their tanks without infantry support, and they will like try to push for crazy plays and stuff. So it'll be really interesting to see how Ronin does. They played last time in APL, I think. Can't remember how well they did. If someone could look that up.
Yeah, they did. They played against us. I think they finished last in the group.
Helios, yeah.
Okay.
There's still like a very big gap, especially if it's gonna be like the same teams from like last APL.
I know.
And I hope the admins are able to either figure out a way to where they could separate the two, because that's how you like kill like communities and clans. They just like get over it, and then, like they don't want to tough it through. They're like, I'll just play pubs.
That's what happened last APL, because you had like 16th IR literally dropping out after week 1 because they get just destroyed against. I think they play TLF week 1, which is just a terrible matchup for them. Like straight up, like awful, right? Lucky Strikes and FAM played together in APL last time, and I know a lot of the FAM people, and they're really great people. They only stuck together after that, or for that tournament, because they were literally halfway through, and they're like, this is just not fun. We don't want to do this, because it just was brutal. Like there are levels to this thing. And if you look at the teams that are in now, tier 1, you have Broken Arrow. I would put them in tier 1. You got ESPT, and you have Syndicate. I would put 75th at tier 2. They're good. They're I would say they're right below tier 1, but like they're still not a seasonal team. Like they weren't playing in seasonals probably for a reason.
It depends who plays for them too. Like
I
don't know I don't know what the plan is for any of these teams in APL. I don't know what the format for APL is going to be, if it's going to be all one group, or if they're going to try to get enough that they can have multiple groups. But like it depends on who plays for them. If they could be I don't think they're going to challenge like Broken Arrow or Syndicate or Esprit. But if like Chris JT and those ESPT 75th guys play for 75th, then they might be the best team in that second tier.
Yeah.
Even though 75th alone hasn't ever played in a tournament that I'm aware of.
But they got a bunch of guys that play, you know?
Yeah,
Like they
yeah,
got
they do.
Yeah.
And
They
they're
can fill the
active in
numbers.
like FNF and the SNS stuff. They do a lot of that.
they murk a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it
It's
kind of
so-
depends. I don't know what the plan is for those guys or how the tournament's going to work, but
Yeah.
Well,
it could be
for the
interesting.
For the first season, I know I'm on the staff right now. It's a little bit confusing on kind of what the direction is, but I know at least for season 1, we tried to get sort of a small group of NA teams and just do a small NA thing, and then we were looking at sort of bracket sizes, and it was like, well, we're short a few players, and we started adding teams, and then we keep getting to these uneven numbers, and eventually Matthews kind of opened it up for everybody, and it did grow into this cluster, and I think that's tough to do for the first season of something. Once you open it up, you do have this huge range of gap of people interested in comp and people not interested in comp, and obviously it worked out the way that it did. But at least right now, I'll read off some of the confirmed
Let's do it.
teams that have put in registration. So we have 3AC, we got BA, we got ESPT, we got Merck, Syndicate, Ronin, 3 Para, and Lucky Strikes and Mikey Marauders, as well as, I believe, 75th. I'd have to look at that. But, I mean, that's a pretty good group. You're looking at a pretty good split of skill levels. I think with those numbers right now, you could do, I don't know, however many I just listed off, like an 8-man bracket, something like that, and do sort of 2 different tiers.
9 teams total. 9 teams total right now.
But
I
you
don't know, man.
you should do 2 different brackets for that type of thing.
I think you got to do a majors and minors, right? I think you have to. You have to because, like, and here's the hard part too. Is like, okay, so what did we see in last APL? We see a lot of these smaller teams grouped together. They do partnerships, right? I don't blame them. Like, and there's good. There's been a history of good partnerships. Obviously, most notable would be OPBHB, right? Like they were for a long time. They were a great partnership. They played super well. Like they were like a in this day and age, they would have been considered a great tier 2 team, right? I would say I don't necessarily think they would have been tier 1, but they were solid competitors, But like you get someone like the head scratcher for me is Lucky Strikes and Mikey's. It's a head scratcher. I don't know the connection. I don't necessarily get it. It seems bizarre.
It's crazy, bro.
It's weird, isn't it? It's
weird. I was like, wait, Mikey's Marauders playing comp? What?
Yeah.
Lucky
I'm
Strikes,
excited.
they played like 18s.
Yeah.
They've
35s.
Like 35s.
They played 35s.
They did it with Fan Man. They won a few games. I mean,
Lucky Strikes beat BKG, and at that point in time, I don't think anyone would have said, "Man, BKG's gonna lose to Lucky Strike and Fam," but they did they got 5-0'd against LS and Fam on Kharkov, if I remember correctly, in APL. So I mean, and which is why I love the tournament. I think it's great because you get these matchups where you don't like it could easily sometimes be a coin flip or an underdog winning it out. I do like that, but like the partnerships become difficult because it's teams that haven't played with each other and they're trying, and this is a tough place to try to figure out if your partnership works or not. It's just so tough. Like, and that's where the partnership doesn't make sense. For a team like 3AC, they seem well established together. They've been doing scrims and FNFs together for a good period of time. They are a partnership to a certain extent because they got a lot of BKG guys when BKG dissolved. So they have, they're a partnership to a certain extent, but they've been together for a while. Shout out to guys like Stealthy, Akane, all these guys that run 3AC. But I've also watched them get whooped by teams like Merc too. And so like the problem is the level sync again. You know, Merc's in this weird. You guys could probably speak to it more. To me, Merc is in this weird.
I could speak on it.
Hit me with. Give us the scoop
yeah.
on Merc, dude. Like I want to
I mean,
hear. I want to hear
I
it.
still have some like cool friends like Jesus Uncut. That's my boy. He's still like a part of like executive leadership.
Yeah.
Like Adam Ward, you know, OB. They're still over there, but I don't know. They could probably maybe fill a 35 of all their own, but when they played against 3AC, they had like the GBI guys fill in. So that's already like at a disadvantage. And
Yeah.
3AC, they will always like they have more than enough numbers to like fill like a 49. You know what I'm saying? They just don't have the experience. So, but I think if 3AC went up against like Merc, like 35s or like 49s, with just all of their own players, like actual players with no ringers, on like a meta map or something like that, I think it'll be pretty good. I mean, Stealthy has like reached out to me, and I've been helping him out with like VOD reviews and stuff, and just giving him my 2 cents of like, why do you guys do that? Why is the fucking commander the only one building the opening gates? Like, like, do you guys not do this? You guys run like the meta right now? It's like everybody runs like a two OP squad. You know what I'm saying? One conservative, one aggressive. They're not there yet. In terms of like 3AC, even like Merc doesn't do that stuff.
No.
They just run like full 6-man squads, and they
So
don't know how to
no
do,
OP
like, min-max.
swapping. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know how to do min max or like stuff like that. So that's why like the gap difference of like the ESPTs versus like the Luck and Mikey Marauders it's just so big because they just don't have the experience. But when you allow like teams like that to play against each other, it just kills like the morale. It's like, comp's not even fun. You know what I'm saying? Like,
If you're getting whooped, right? You work all
Yeah.
because if you do practice, right, you put all this work in to prepare for these, and then you still get whooped. You're like, well, what's the point, right? Like I put all this work. I'm
Yeah.
clearly not cut out for this. But how do you? But the question is like, how do you do it? I think ECL has somewhat of the solution. I like the way they do it, right? So they have the bracketing system, or it's almost like English Premier League, right? So it's like you got the different tiers and stuff, and you can fight for promotion or demotion, sort of thing. I like that. I think that's not a bad model. I think there's some ways that you could help with some of that stuff. The question is, you have enough players and people interested to do it, right? Because like one solution would be the draft system, right? Like that would be like, this is a way to even out teams and stuff, where it's like, okay, you do got sweaty players, you got not sweaty players, so you draft players. But the problem is like, you get guys that are like in the smaller teams, or even like going back to your Chinese team example, like that wouldn't work for that squad because they only want to play for their squad leader. So if they all get drafted to different teams, then like they're not going to want to do it, like they want to play with
players on Ronin that probably don't speak English.
For sure.
Yeah. Or like if you're playing like, you're trying to ring for like a Russian team like PKKA or like Lost Squad, they probably have very limited English.
Yeah.
So they played last year for APL.
I don't know. I think APL kind of needs to figure out, and I say this, that I asked Matthews to be on staff. I told him I'd help. He hasn't done it yet, so maybe he doesn't want my help. That's fine. But I think one of the, and I just want to say that before I say this, because it's sorry, it's going to come out like a criticism or anything, but I think APL needs to decide like what it wants to be, like, because the way it was pitched originally was, at least for the lower division that was going to be there, was this is meant to be for smaller teams, be more developmental, be for them to learn.
Yeah.
And for that reason, Helios originally wasn't going to be an APL
or the law firm for that matter.
We decided not to do it. What changed our mind was when, like, one fateful day in the summer, we demolished Easy Tac Team in an 18s and then we had 40 people trying to join Helios from Easy Tac Team, and we were
Yeah.
like, all right, like we have this influx of new players that are, in general less experienced and have had less success than, your average Helios player. And okay, so let's play APL and use it as a developmental opportunity for these guys, for us to figure it out. And like on that basis, we joined APL. But then APL became something like very different because we were in a group with like the law firm and Syndicate and Ronin. Like that was our group, and all of a sudden we're like, well, this doesn't feel like it's such a developmental league anymore.
Right.
Right. And I get it. Like there was a lot of things that happened that led that to be that way. They didn't just decide, but like teams dropped out. They didn't have enough, teams to do the 2 divisions like they wanted to. And I get all that. But like, if you want to have a league for teams that are new, I think that's a great thing. But then that's what it's got to be. And you can't have ESPT in a league like that.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
I don't say this as like a knock against ESPT, but it's just like, if it's going to be a developmental league, the teams aren't learning anything to me getting 5-0'd by ESPT in like 20 minutes.
It's honestly a
Yeah.
compliment. It just means they're on such a high level. Like they've been doing this for a long time. They got a lot of good players. Like it's not a knock against them. It's just facts. There's levels to this. There are levels to this. And unfortunately, as it stands right now, like if you have ESPT, if you have, I would argue even more so now, Syndicate, and I would say Broken Arrow too. Like no disrespect, like, and I'll say this though, like I know that like when I talked to Almighty about doing APL, the one thing he said, he's like, we can dumb things down. Like if we want to play at a lower level, we can bring guys in that aren't our sweatiest guys, we can bring in guys, like give people opportunity. And if you're telling me that like you're almost gonna do it like if we use like baseball as an analogy, like you're gonna pull up your minor leaguers. And your minor leaguers are going to be the guys that play in APL, like in the developmental league, give them a chance to play and stuff. Then I am all for it. If ESPT wants to bring up their B team and do it, like that may be a solution right there. But I don't see them necessarily doing that as it stands right now.
Well, there was an opportunity to do that the last APL, and I don't think that they did that.
Well, the
Yeah,
law
I
think
firm
it's-
didn't.
Yeah, I think it's also harder now more than ever because I think there's a lot of these like mid-range teams that have disappeared and we've all kind of gone our way. I mean, pre-Broken Arrow, you had like BR1 and Helios kind of like in that like more medium range, I guess you could say, and we were all still getting to like know comp and getting this experience, and now it seems like there's so much more of a cliff. I feel like Wix, like you could probably talk a lot about this as like you were like one of the main leads at Helios, and it's like if you're a small team, you need something like APL now more than ever to be able to get that comp experience, be able to play some of the better teams. I think like 75th's at a place where they can scrim some of the better teams and be able to pull experience. But then it's if you're Lucky Strikes and Mikey Marauders, where are you getting your experience if you're not carefully curating the other small teams to play with? Where do you get those numbers? Where do you need some rule book, you need something to be set in stone. So like I guess my question for like Wix and like Cidi too is like, what do you guys think of like, I mean, aside from APL, like how does a team that is smaller, just starting out, grow, and the environment that is like that exists now? If you were Helios, let's say.
It's tough. I mean, there's you would have to do it through just carefully choosing your friendly opponents, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of going through it now a little bit in a way with the Glow's Battlegrounds competitive team, which we've kind of launched, in the wake of like Helios going away, because it used to be that if you're a member of the Glow's community and you wanted to play competitively, our rule was that you had to play for Helios. That was your only choice, like because we considered it, you can't join another community. Helios is like tied to Glows and everything.
Yeah.
So when the TL merger happened, and like there was a lot of it before that as well, we kind of changed that. And so it's like you can be a member of Glows and you can be in TL. And so we're kind of in this weird place as a team where, we're looking at whether we can find a way to join APL and play in APL if we have enough people, if we fit what the league wants. Like, those are all things that, our comp lead people and Glows are looking for. But we've just started kind of doing 35s. I think we've done like 2 or 3 35s.
Yeah.
And we're trying to find, the right level where it's a competitive game and it's not like a steamroll one way or the other.
It's hard, ain't it?
And it's hard. And for us, like, too, like, it's complicated by, like, Glow's Battlegrounds could put together a pretty nasty 49 person roster.
Yeah.
Right. But it's going to have a lot of people from Syndicate. It's going to have, some people from
TL.
ESPT, some people from TL, like, it's
WTH.
like WTH. They all play their quote unquote high level comp elsewhere. Yeah. So it's like, well, who turns up? Like, what are our signups? Because we have people that are more casual players that are interested in the matches, but aren't interested in like the super sweat side of it. So I think, kind of to get back to the answer to the question, it's like right now your only option is to kind of find opponents that are in the same spot as you. But I think there's a limit to that. Like, having, like ECL, the lower division of ECL is really important to the growth of a team, to really actually give you a tournament to play in something, and not just friendlies. And I think there's a difference there. And, maybe APL can find a way to, work themselves into covering that, that market or whatever. And that would be great for those teams. I think you just gotta kind of like find the right opponents one way or another, whether it's through tournament or through friendlies, because, like, I'm not saying you should never play really good teams when you're new. G13's like second scrim ever was against ESPT, and we were like pretty psyched that we lasted 27 minutes.
Oh shit.
23 or 27, I think it was.
Really?
That was like our for the people in Glows at the time. This is like last summer. Like, that was like our second comp match ever. Was a scrim against ESPT. We got steamrolled. Like, obviously, of course, like, we expected it. But there's limited utility to that. Like, you can't just do that every week and say, like, all right, well, we prep all week for a 20-minute match where we just get back capped and, like, get run over. Like, you need to have those matches that extend out so people can learn something from it.
Morale, too, I think is a big one.
Yeah.
Morale is a huge thing, actually,
It
too.
is. That's my biggest worry. Whenever, so I've been, I schedule the stuff for Wolfpack, and I kind of give the direction on that. My worst fear. So we scheduled our first 18 versus Glows, and I'll tell you this, my worst fear. I was like, as long as our guys go in and they don't get just held back on the garrisons and whatever, locked out, blocked out. I was like, that will be a win, because I don't want our guys, like, even if we lose, I just don't want our guys to be like, we just got obliterated. I don't want to do comp anymore. Like, that's like, because that's a real thing. Like, I've seen that happen before, where they just get, APL is a good example. They just get utterly destroyed, and they're like, I don't want to do this anymore, man. Like, this is not even fun or whatever. Oh my gosh, I just saw a message that's, okay, I'll talk about it real quick. I asked Compton, because the rumor was that for APL, Merc was teaming up with GBI. It's somewhat true. Some GBI guys are now part of Merc, like they're with Merc, and so and they're playing with them. So that's what's really interesting. But going back to that Glow Wolfpack 18, that was my worst fear. And fortunately, it didn't happen. But, like, that's a legit thing. Like, if we went, like, because the next thing we know, like, so we teamed up with Lucky Strikes, who knew an 18 versus Broken Arrow. And literally, I was getting I didn't get to play in it. I was at dinner. And, like, I'm looking at my phone, and all of my Wolfpack people who were playing in it were like, WTF. Like, we're getting obliterated. And, like, unfortunately, it was people that, like, I know aren't ever going to leave. But, like, if it was new guys or whatever, not experienced or whatever, guarantee you, dude, like, in a butt whipping like that, they'd be like, nope, sorry, no, I'm never doing this again. Like, this is awful. May not even ever see them in the community again. I've seen that happen too, where it's just like they get whooped so bad that they're like, nope, see
They
ya.
go to postscriptum.
They go to or they go back to COD or whatever. No, I'm just kidding.
Modern
But like,
Warfare
yeah,
or
Modern
something like that.
Warfare. Yeah. But that's a real thing, and you know, I mean, 16th IR, like they're still a group, fortunately, but like they literally dropped out of the tournament after week 1 because they just drew such a hard matchup and got whooped. And like, and do I blame them? Not really. I mean, it's so tough. Like, okay, you want to just do this for 5 weeks in a row? I mean, like, no, like, I don't, like, that's not fun. You know, at the end of the day, like, you still want to have fun with it. And
Yeah.
Especially as like a team lead too. Like I can't imagine like scraping the barrel to try and pull numbers for 35. Finally get the 35. It's over in 27 minutes, and there goes everybody's weekend plan that they like.
Yeah.
You know, they can
What are we doing
go
now
on that day? Yeah.
what are we doing now? Like,
Drinking and being depressed.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
I don't even know. Do you even hang out in a VC after that? You just be like, no, I'm gonna go play Red Dead. I'm gonna go play Red Dead online by myself. Like, just like, I don't know. That'd be something I would do. But like, yeah, it's so tough. I think a tier system is where it's at, because what I wonder is, you know, you get all these. There's a lot of teams who are playing FNS right now who aren't doing APL, and I would think that the part of the reason they're not doing APL is they're like, I don't want to play teams like ESPT and Syndicate and all those teams. I got you know, teams that come to mind. TOG draws numbers. They could probably get pretty close to a 35s team with the numbers that they have. You know, and they got pretty decent players. They've been playing together quite some time. You know, they could probably do it. You could get some partnerships here and there. I've seen teams like groups like 16th Luftwaffe out of nowhere get some guys. Second Rangers always draws decent numbers for FNFs. Like they've been around for a bit. Obviously Lucky Strikes has been around for a while. Fall Scrim, who used to be a USMC, they draw good numbers, and they got good shooters. They do got some good players in there. Like shout out to my boy Elkin. Those teams like could play in these lower tiers, and it doesn't even necessarily, I would argue, doesn't have to be serious. You know, just make it almost like FNF low tier. You know, have fun in it. You know, play some deals, but it's just you guys. You know, I don't know.
It's basically like FNF with a strat sketch. That's it.
Or like where it actually means something. It's not like whose line is it anywhere where the points don't matter. It's like the points actually kind of do matter, you know, like but like I say matter, but like doesn't really matter in the life thing. But like you know what I mean though, where it's like okay, like, you know, but it's a good challenge though, where, you know, you get a little bit of pride of like, hey, we got 3 points by winning this match, you know, like we're up on the table, you know. I don't know.
I think so first of all, everybody has to agree to not take wins and losses in any tournament, even like seasonal and stuff, like too seriously.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like everybody just sometimes in like, you know, I've been on teams that are guilty of this too. Like it's natural because people are trying and they care, but it's like, man, like we could have so many more people probably that are interested in this scene if it just wasn't so like shitty when people lose and it all turns into like toxic garbage. Like that's a bit of an exaggeration, but like if we could all just agree that like let's just have fun and you know, play and try to win, and if we lose then whatever, like let's just do that. But
it's hard
to think that way.
It's hard psychologically to get to that place, you know, because like you say it, but then do you really believe that, you know, because people tie their value to it to a certain extent. There are a lot of guys I would say in Hell Let Loose who, you know, like this means a lot to them. You know, you could tell them all day long, like hey, like just remember, like we're all good. But then they take this beef to heart, you know. Like there's guys. I mean, Half Royal, you could talk about this. There's some guys that still don't talk to each other in the Hell Let Loose community because the beef, and it's years long beef that they hold on to, you know. It's fascinating. The whole
Yeah. I mean, like some people that like we've been just talking about like getting onto the podcast. You know, it's like you stream or like you're doing a podcast, and like now you have to think of like, do these two people get along with each other? It's a hostile environment as like a new player to get into, because one, you have to catch up on like the millions of pounds of like seasonal whatever tournament is currently going on, all that drama. You got to understand like where teams are and like growing and like what the team's histories are, and then like you also just have to like know how to play the game and know all the niche things. It's like when filters were at its peak, it's like if you're not running filters, it's like, why are you even playing comp? And it's like that's such a ridiculous concept when you compare to any other like competitive scene of like, yeah, you gotta like tweak your graphics card settings, otherwise like you're just a failure, you know?
Yeah. There's like people that like play like Valorant or like the very arcadey TDM games. Instead of like 16:4 or something, they run like a square setup.
Like 4-3 or 5.
Yeah.
Yo, yeah.
Just
Because it makes the heads like wider and
Yeah.
easier to hit, supposedly, but the game looks terrible.
yeah. So like stuff like that. I mean, that's just a part of like Hella Loose competitive, and I think it's never gonna go away because it's been there for like years, even before we started playing it. Like
Yeah.
people spend hours finding rocket snipes, finding like glitches. I mean, it's like the game wasn't built for competitive, but
it's ran like it, dude. But it's ran like it, you know.
it's probably one of the only games that are above like 40 players where you could like people play really good at it.
Yeah.
So I don't know any other games. Is it like Planetside or something like that? Like a big one too? I don't know if they have
Squad does comp.
But
Yeah, Squad does comp, but I haven't heard it like Hell Let Loose. Hell Let Loose seems like an enigma, dude. Like which is so fascinating too, because like the developers don't hardly help at all with it and or promote it. I mean, like they promote it, but they don't really promote it. Not nearly to the level that you would think they would, especially given the fact that like, I mean, out of all the players that play on a weekly basis, how many of these guys are comp players, like, and they, like that's a large part of your customer base is these comp guys. Like they're the guys that remain loyal. They're the guys that like customer lifetime value, like they're going to be significantly higher than some of these other guys, but it's not promoted by the developers all that much or supported. Like I don't see them running tournaments. I don't see them like if you look at other esports, I mean, like for Apex, for example, Respawn, they're running tournaments. COD, they're running, COD League. League of Legends certainly is. Like they're like,
it's fucking nuts.
It's insane
doing it.
Yeah, it's so cool to see though. Like I look at it and I'm just like, that's so cool what they've built up. I don't look at it and be like, I'm almost jealous to a certain extent when I watch it.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever watch? I'm curious from a casting perspective. Do you guys ever watch esports casters? Do you take any of that stuff from it? Like, do you
me personally, like I actually came from like League of Legends. I've never really played like FPS other than like I used to play like I actually used to like be pretty good at like Counter-Strike, but when it was like 1.4 to like 1.6, but I stopped playing that, and then I've like when after that, like I played like a bunch of League of Legends when it was like season 3 or something like that. I used to play then, and a lot of like the COD World War II games. There was like Medal of Honor, like, on console. I played a lot of console like World War II games, and I've always been addicted to like that era. Movies like Saving Private Ryan and stuff, but yeah.
How about you, Wix?
Sorry, what was the question?
I was asking about like, do you guys ever watch like esports commentators or casters, and like, do you ever take anything from that? I mean, like, because there's like these are like professionally done. Like, if you watch like PUBG, I watch PUBG. It fascinates me the way. I mean, first off, like the game was built way more for esports than and Hell Let Loose, obviously. But like, it's so fascinating. Or you could take Counter Strike, you could take Valorant, all these different games that have like esports tournaments and leagues and stuff. Like I love watching the casters from it. I take stuff from it. Like I feel like the energy, the amount that honestly, like sometimes it's the amount of talking that occurs, like the balance of like, okay, where do I stop and let the action tell the story versus, like as a play-by-play guy versus me, talking about it, like I take stuff from that. Like, do you ever watch any of these esports guys and add it to your stream or take any tidbits or anything like that?
So the only esport that I've really watched, I mean, a little bit of Rocket League, I guess, but mostly like Rainbow Six. Rainbow Six Siege was the reason I started playing on PC a few years ago. It was the first game I played, and I still like to watch Rainbow Six esports, like even through all the ups and downs of that game, which in some ways kind of compared to the ups and downs of Hell Let Loose too when you look at it. But like I don't. Like, do I try to take anything away from it? I don't really watch it like that. Like, I don't know. Like I've said before, like I don't care if people, follow me on Twitch, or I don't want people to sub. I'm not trying to make anything out of this. Like I just do it for fun, and I try to do a good job. But I'm not like looking at it, from like, how strictly like what can I take to improve. I just kind of do my own thing, and people have seemed to like it, so I kind of keep doing it like that.
So I'm the only addict. So I'm the only like guy that
Probably,
like,
yeah.
dude.
I mean, I watch like League of Legends, like Worlds sometimes, whenever it comes on. But their casting is like, it's fit for that game.
It is.
I think it's very tough. At least with my style of casting, it's I'm very like top down, so I don't really see too much action. And well, I see a lot of action, but like when it comes to like the micro perspective, like you don't see a guy get fucking a rocket straight to the face, and you're like, oh my god,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I send Sheep all these clips about like worlds. I watched a lot of League of Legends and like Rocket League. Those are my two big things. And
Yeah.
something that I always take away is like these guys do it in person, so it's a bit different. But the amount of hand gestures that go into these casters when they're in person, usually they're not being shown. Obviously, they're just casting. But with two guys, what I've talked to Sheep about is they'll communicate with their hands when the other person needs to take over. Because I mean, especially in those two games, they're super high action, super compact. So somebody's spitting words at like, rapping basically at like 200 words per minute. And then you run out of breath. You need to take water. You need to do all these things. So you're like, they would like signal. They'd be like, and then it'd be like Sheep takes over or something. I always think
Yeah.
that's crazy. Not really applicable in Hell Let Loose. And
Yeah.
obviously, I think out of the four of us, I'm probably like the least experienced, I want to say. But
I don't know.
it's,
I've been
I mean,
casting
it's
for very long.
crazy.
City's the most experienced out of all of us by far.
Yeah, I've casted some really fucking good games.
Yeah, dude.
But I don't discriminate. I never ask for anybody specific, unless like I know that it's one of those like off chances where like I don't know when's the next time I'm gonna be able to cast these guys because it's probably gonna be a good game. The big if it's like 116 versus like ESPT, I wouldn't like to cast that game because it's just gonna be like dead, bro.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? It's just gonna be like 3-2 grind, like everything's they're gonna play a meta map. I'd rather cast like Fins Let Loose versus like what's like another team like 82 AD or something.
Yeah.
Or the old 82 AD, not the new 82 AD, because the new 82 AD will probably stomp them.
Yeah. I do get that.
It's nice to see, like, with no, I don't know, like, it's nice to see the less practice teams because, like, you don't know what's gonna happen. Everything else is just so like ritualized. It's like, if it's hospice on SME and Axis Cap first, it's like just even strictly from an armor perspective, it's like I know where our tanks are gonna be. I know where their tanks are gonna be, and we're gonna be like sitting there the whole fucking game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but when you see like, less practiced, teams, like you get like the chaos factor, the like have no idea what's gonna happen because these guys like don't know, like not like don't know or like don't care about like what the extreme like meta is. So they'll just like you'll just like see a tiger on like a 15-minute flank around the entire map for some reason. You'll be like, what are these guys doing? And then they like kill 3 tanks and you're like, all right, I guess it worked. Like I don't know, I can't explain that, but
isn't that amazing, dude? Like, cause like I've casted stuff and like I think in some ways it's helped me, in some ways it's hurt me, where it's like being new, like, and you don't necessarily come from like the sweaty comp perspective of like, because like you haven't been in those circles all that long, like you don't catch some of that stuff. But in some ways it's good because you just it comes as a surprise to you, right? Like, and I think that's good, like from an enthusiasm standpoint, or like trying to keep things like, because I think as a commentator, part of your job is to basically tell people this is an exciting moment, right? Like this is something worth getting excited about, and you have to show it in a way, right? Like you show it with your enthusiasm and whatever. So that's good. Like for example, like when I was watching the final for seasonals, like to watch, and like I know that some people are gonna be like, yeah, what did you expect? But to watch WTH take out 3 heavies in the span of like 2 minutes is freaking wild, man. I don't care like what comp strategy is used or whatever. If you don't get hyped about that, dude, I don't know what you get hyped about. Like it's just it's some of the stuff, and like I still think that that's like incredibly exciting. But it's so hard because like you were talking about, like because you have like 49 guys against 49 guys, you have a lot more to capture than like a League of Legends or a Siege, where it's just like a certain number of guys. So like, but I love the challenge. I think it's a good challenge where it's like, and I think what like the criticisms that come in about like being too high up or too close in or whatever, to me, I'm like I'll be perfectly honest. I'll be like, then you go do it. Because like, I think as a caster, you, to a certain extent, you can't be wrong. Whatever you do, you can't be wrong, because it is your job to capture the story and capture it however you want to. I'll be honest. Like, if you capture those individual moments and it's freaking exciting and good stuff, awesome. If you capture the high stuff and you got good commentary about like the comp strategy and like, oh man, they're not keeping a good line or whatever, good stuff. But like you're gonna tell a story no matter what. If sometimes it's just not the story people want. Like it's like, and I think it's just part of the challenge. It's just a hard game to commentate. But as a commentator, I still have hella fun doing it, dude. Like it is so much fun. To answer the question earlier, I like casting more than I like playing. Just straight up. Bro, like my voice is gone by the end of it, but like I still enjoy it, like it's so much fun. It's so exciting, especially if you get a good co-caster. Like casting with Wix, like Wix, like I'll tell you this, like I've casted with other people and they're really good, but they're not natural like you are. Like as a color guy, you're like I like, because people don't think about this either. But like for who aren't casters or whatever, but like you truly, the way you in my opinion, the way you have to have it set up is a good play-by-play and a good color. I can't hardly. It's so hard to do it with 3 people, because then it's just people stepping on each other. Like that's where it gets tough. So having 2 people, I think, is that right balance, and I think doing solo is just too hard. Like I think like solo, there's too many gaps. You're not capturing things. And what Wix did that was really good when I casted with him was he was great about pointing things out and being like, I'm seeing, especially if you have dual maps, be like, I'm seeing this in B8 where a tank is coming up, right? They're able to like point things out that you can't see. So you guys are helping each other out in terms of pointing out certain things that need to be captured, whatever, because he can do it because I'm focused on one thing. So now I can zoom back out and capture other things. But also just like your ability to be able to provide coherent commentary and analysis on what's going on in the big picture of things and be able to describe it other than from a play-by-play perspective is so important. And Wix is like the ultimate natural when it comes to that. Like having him as a sideline reporter was like one of the coolest things I've ever done in casting.
Oh my god,
dude.
dude! Hold on. Could you edit this part and be like, it's Wix time?
It's Wix time. I can add it too, dude. I have the transitions and stuff, dude.
There
Like
you
he
go.
uses that sticker all the
You got
time, and
to,
I
bro.
freaking love it, dude.
We
People
always
love
make
the
fun of
sound
Wix.
effect too, like the
Yeah.
little like Morse code, like
Yes.
beep, 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 beep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Dude.
should have
All
come in
the-
with like a 1940s accent
Yeah,
after that.
Dude.
we have that as a sticker in the Glows Discord.
Yeah.
So we always give Wix shit for that.
I think
mean, like-
someone's named Wix Time Enjoyer. Is that
Yeah.
Scythe?
That was
Scythe,
Scythe, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he changed it now to something else that I won't say, but
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. But
I was just getting made fun of on the Syndicate server earlier today.
Why?
For the bottom line when I came on it said pro hell let loose
You
player
are!
caster.
You're pro Hello
And
Loose player.
I was getting told by a certain level, a famous level 500 player that basically like, oh, you're a pro hell let loose player, but you don't play defense or some shit like that. It was absurd.
I mean, I've learned in this game that people have their opinions. Whether you're level 0 to like level 500, bro. Like in the end, we're all here to play a game. Just have fun, bro. Like don't. It's not that serious, bro.
I know.
It's really not that serious, bro. So
Commentating's serious though. Like from my perspective, I know other people.
yeah.
I know people. Man, like I feel like I'm on the far end of the spectrum because I take it like super seriously. Not seriously from the perspective of like my value is tied into it. I just enjoy it. So I put a lot of work into it because I enjoy it. I think Half Royal is the same way. Like when I work with Half, like that boy puts in a lot of effort. Like he does stuff like, dude, you doing Almighty Cam like was one of the coolest ideas that I've seen in Hell Let Loose commentating that I've ever seen. Like I think it's so cool. And in Cidi, like you were the first person to show the world the kill feed. I know it wasn't 100% you, but you still showed the world, and I was like, bro, that's legit. And they used it in the finals too. And shout out to Broken Arrow for putting that in their server because
Wait, how the fuck did you guys get it? I thought Source said that he wasn't gonna put it out.
So the way that it works, I
coding.
Yeah, I got a little bit of like the ticket info because I still snoop around. But my understanding is that source, like streamers are free to use it, and the way that it works is you have to like make a ticket with it, whatever server you're using it. There's some website reach out to source code.
There is
for any like streamer interested, but you can you have to reach out to the server, and then you might have to install something yourself. But it's pretty friendly. I shout out.
It's only an embed. It's only an embed.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's kind of nice.
Okay. I mean, when I did it, it was just like a browser link that just was an overlay for mine. So it's like fully adjustable, and I adjusted it to where like it wasn't like impeding what it was. But
dude.
I mean, shout outs to Source. He helped me a lot, and
from the circle, right? Yeah, the circle.
I have a video on my YouTube explaining like it was like a small like test that in like Glow was in the Discord with me, and he was just talking about like how he made it, and him and excuse me from the circle. They both made it. So
gotcha.
But right now they said it's like embedded for their server because it's connected to like their Patreon and all that stuff. And then this is V1 of the like public release. He said that there was like many versions before, but if you guys ever want to play like Counter-Strike style on Hell Let Loose, go
to the circle.
The circle servers, yeah. And it's super easy to set up. It's basically like an overlay. It's like but do it at your own risk because if Hell Let Loose people see this, then overlays are technically not allowed. I would assume.
And like seasonals and stuff like that wouldn't be considered.
No, just in the game by itself.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it'd probably be in the same spectrum as like what's the filters.
Oh, NVIDIA filters. The
Yeah,
yeah.
Unless people start complaining about it, then it probably wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
You know, like the last Gary's thing.
I mean, I think that's all Airbags was using was the kill feed. So I don't know why people are
Oh.
getting mad. But
Probably. I mean,
yeah.
he's not gonna play seasonal at least for ESPT, from what Excel said in the GA.
He didn't play after that. He didn't play after all that controversy came out about him.
He
But
was on vacation.
yeah, he was on. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Feliz Navidad.
Espero
I do
año.
want to ask you guys, what do you guys think about? I know that we've been running for like maybe how long have we been running right now?
An hour 50. An hour 50.
An hour 50. I probably got like 30 minutes left. in me.
Okay. Yeah.
But what do you guys think about seasonals? This is the most recent. I know we talked a little bit about APL, but
yeah.
Whether you casted, played in it, you know, I know all of us was somewhat involved. But what was your perspective? I mean, we could probably start with Half.
Yeah, so I definitely I was kind of on my vacation, but I also helped out Egg and Jimbo on one of those streams. Found out why 3-man casting is not efficient. But I had a really good time watching it. I think I definitely noticed that this seasonal compared to the past seasonals I've watched felt a little bit more stale with the new metas coming out. I think that IR WTH play and a few like rep station positions I thought were really creative. But other than that, it was seemed a little bit stale in terms of like meta changing moves.
Yeah.
I think in terms of like team plays, I was shocked where some teams wound up. It was pretty pumped to see Broken Arrow and the team that I play for play. Kind of disappointing to see how they played, but I'm also a super big pessimistic person when it comes to like the teams I play on. I always expect them or always think very highly of the people that I play with and that they should do better. But overall, pretty good. I thought the finals was personally not as entertaining as previous ones, but it was still pretty good seasonals, you know, all things considered. Yeah.
That shit was boring as fuck.
All right. Hey, yeah,
I'm just saying, that's just my 2 cents. So
honestly,
the game, not the pre-show or anything like that. Just the game in general. So I feel bad for our Blake.
It's hard when it's a boring match, right?
Tough,
like,
bro. You're just
like
pulling shit, bro.
Yo, like I think that's why you gotta take some crack, like apparently I do, and just start yelling at everything and make it a little bit more exciting. I thought that there were some teams that performed better than expected. I think TL was underestimated going into the tournament, so they made it extremely far. I think that some people knew they were going to do really well, but obviously, like, they were put in the lower bracket to start out with, and then they went and proved that like they deserve to be in the top group. Like, it's hard though because like you look at the teams that were in the top group. Obviously like ESPT, Greyhounds, they deserve to be up there. WTH, they obviously deserve to be up there. FOC was extremely disappointing. Like, I think that like for a top team, especially a team that performed reasonably well in HCA, did not perform as well when it came. Chimera too did not perform as well as they could have. I think teams like Broken Arrow, I look at and I'm like, they even like if I had one of the storylines from seasonals, it would be NA proves they deserve to compete with the rest of them, because all 4 NA teams left the contender stage as teams to watch. Syndicate performed really well. Broken Arrow drew a tough matchup against Greyhounds, but they deserve to be where they were at. Obviously TL and ESPT were in the semifinals. Like, they deserve to be there. I think Broken Arrow or North America really performed. I thought GBI made it really far. They drew another tough matchup against against ESPT, but like made it reasonably far. I think the team that came out like with the highest stock upgrade is ICF. I think ICF came out of the tournament and just, you know, they played unconventionally, and I don't think people expected them to be as good as they were. And they came out and played super well against a lot of different teams. They had some losses for sure. Like I think they lost to Broken Arrow in one of their matches, but like you know the unconventional strats that they pulled, insane. What they did on that Remagen match, insane. They broke the record for
I mean,
longest.
IR, right?
I'm
Cheap.
so sorry. I said
Not
ICF.
IR.
IR. You were right.
IR, yeah.
IR. I'm getting mixed up. IR, like a 30-minute time to cap, and they
Yeah.
only pulled it when that airhead was coming down. Just so clever, dude. Like so clever. Like, I think IR comes out of that and proves that like a top 5 team. I think I don't think anyone had them up there. I mean, you would have had, like, in terms of Chinese teams, you would have had FOC and Alpha before them, I think. I mean, I could be wrong, but
I think that was the one of the surprising things that came out of it was coming from last seasonal, where Alpha and IR combined their rosters and then made an A team and a B team.
Yep.
That was Air and Baze.
Baze.
My impression the whole time, basically from HCA performance, was that Alpha was the better team.
yeah.
This is 2 HCAs ago. So HCA that happened like 2022, 2013. Alpha was like one of the top teams, and they only got eliminated basically on the last day of the season when GXV beat them, and then we played a tiebreaker and beat them, and then went on to the final. But Alpha was kind of, I think, considered the stronger Chinese team with IR, but I don't know if there was like a lot of roster shifting, or maybe we were just wrong, or maybe somebody picked up some new people or something. But IR, came out of that, came out of this last season as the highest finishing Chinese team, higher than FOC even.
Yep.
So I think that was they were kind of a revelation, and at the same time, Alpha was maybe a disappointment a little bit, and that they didn't even make the second stage. I don't.
No,
think,
they did not make it to group stage. So,
Yeah.
um,
What about you, Wix? Your overview of the winter seasonal.
It was interesting. I think there was a lot of stuff that didn't really go as people would have planned, or maybe would have expected. I think, like we kind of have been talking about, I think people were pretty high on FOC from their finish in the last seasonal, finishing top 4, knocking out Infamous and stuff like that. They would have been surprised to see FOC not really factor in too late in seasonal. I think a big thing was that ESPT and WTH making the final like they did. I mentioned it earlier. I think there were times where, at least from the outside, appeared like maybe some of their top players weren't playing anymore, and they hadn't been able to replace them, and there was maybe there was some lack of enthusiasm from the team or something. I at least how it looked from the outside. But then in the end they rallied, and a lot of the players that might have been missing from early on games or from HCA showed up in the end, and they both made great finals runs. I think probably a lot of people would have been surprised given everything that they knew that Greyhounds didn't appear in the final. I think that it was kind of looked at least by me going in, as like, this is Greyhounds seasonal or something. Like, they were, to me at least, the favorite most of the time, like along with WTH. Greyhounds were probably one of the most universal favorites, I think. And not that they had a bad tournament, they only lost in the semifinal, but I think it was a little bit surprising not to see them in the final, because they were considered to be so strong, and they were kind of the machine this year going into it. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting, and I think there's been a lot of changes since. I don't know if it's all positive with teams disbanding and teams combining and stuff like that. And obviously in NA, we've seen a huge shift of infantry players from TL to Syndicate. So it's going to be interesting to see when all these teams come together again. We kind of had the end of seasonal and then really 1 week, and then it hit Christmas. So there hasn't been a lot of scrims, and like after every seasonal, there's been a lot of change, and it's going to be interesting to see where everything falls. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was as good of a seasonal as any. I don't know. City found, I think, a lot of it boring, but it is what it is.
Greyhounds was undefeated going into that, weren't they? Into that semifinal? I think they were undefeated. I mean, like
official matches, probably, yeah.
Well, I mean, like in that tournament, they were undefeated
Yeah.
in that tournament.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they had lost. So, I mean, even like ESPT had lost going into the playoffs, because they had beat DC, and then I believe they lost to DC.
Yeah.
So they were in danger at one point in time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Greyhounds, like a semifinal appearance is horrible as it sounds, is almost a disappointment, But I don't see their stock as any lower. They just, unfortunately, they lost to ESBT. And honestly, watching that final, I don't know what your guys' opinion was. Man, like it seemed like a coordination failure for ESPT at the very beginning of the match. Like they just did not get to the point. Like there was something that went wrong. I don't know. Incheon was commander for it. I don't think he'd been commanding at all going into that match. Like for any of the seasonals matches. I don't know if that played a part into it. The tanking clearly lacking on ESPT. Like WTH just kind of curb stomped them, in terms of tank. Like it got to the point where they're running half tracks up to they're sending, like they were sending Tigers back to get replenished, like because they were running out of munitions. Like that's if there's tanking dominance, like that's it right there, I would think. But
yeah,
it's tough.
Every team has their strengths and weaknesses. So, I mean, if you keep up with all the current top teams and like even like the lower tier teams, you don't know what their strength or weaknesses is because they always get 5-0 against like a really good team. But I mean, everybody will play to their strength. I mean, WTH has been in the game for like a long time. I mean, the tournaments was started by like Heidi and like and friends.
Yes.
So
good team. They're phenomenal.
Yeah.
They deserve to be in that final. They deserve to win.
Yeah. I mean, they've won before too.
Yeah,
so.
3 times. Their first 3-peat, or it's not 3-peat, but like they've won 3 times in a row now. They're sole holders of the best. So.
And then you have like teams like Fizz Let Loose. Like I always call them the journeymen of seasonals because they come back every year and they will always fill it and they always play. No matter if they win or lose, they always come back. You know what I'm saying? I think in terms of like the NA community, it's just like a lot of like the smaller teams either like give up too easily or they just get absorbed or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's got to be somebody that is willing to like teach the newer guys stuff like that because when I first started comp, I mean, I was with Merc. I didn't know shit, bro. The first ECA match we played against like Alpha, and we lasted like I think like 30 minutes on like SMDM. But after I left that and I joined like GXV, it was just like a game changer because like these guys are way more organized. They're up to meta, but they just need to learn and and yeah, we just gotta help everybody. That's the only thing.
I think
don't be the one to bring NA down. Bring the one to bring NA up.
I think the solution to everything, just to wrap it up, is one of my boys in Wolfpack. He says we need to start a tournament. We're gonna call it Half Let Loose. So Half's gonna be the head of it, and we're just gonna run a new tournament, and it's gonna be great. And that's gonna be the end of it, and that will solve all of NA comps problems. I don't know what that solves, but it will solve all the problems. So
I'm gonna go on another vacation.
Half Let Loose.
Bro, he's gonna start it and he's gonna DM Sheepdog. He's gonna be like, "Hey man, I gotta go do some IRL stuff, bro. Like, could you like run this shit for me?" Thanks, but you can still use my name. It's cool.
And then I'm gonna get wrapped, and then
I approved it.
And then I'm gonna get wrapped up into it. I know I am, dude. But for sure. Well, guys, we appreciate you guys. This was hella fun. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Like we love your freaking opinions, dude. It was so fun talking to you guys. So you guys are the best. So we appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
For sure. So and also, if you, they're both casters, and Cidi mentioned he's got a YouTube channel. So, we'll put the links in the description, but feel free to support Cidi and Wix. Give them follows, give them likes, give them subs, give them everything. And be sure to support them. I'm sure that they're going to be casting or playing in the future. Obviously, APL is coming up, and for all of us, I'm sure we all want to do some casting for that as it comes up, or scrims or anything like that. So feel free to support them, and we'll put those links in the description below.